Hello, and a warm welcome to the Ghatna Chakra book video. Let's begin this journey where we will present every topic in a simple, clear, and exam-oriented manner.
All right, let's jump right in. Have you ever stopped to think about what it really means to have a piece of land? Turns out, it's not always as simple as it sounds. Today, we're breaking down a very specific kind of land right, something called a bhumidhar. I mean, it seems like a pretty simple question, doesn't it? You've got the deed, it's your property. But a lot of the time, land ownership comes with this invisible rule book. It's all about balancing your rights with some very specific limitations. So that's the real question we're tackling here. And that's where this key term comes into play, a bhumidhar with non-transferable rights. So what on earth does that mean? Well, according to the source material, it all comes down to having the right to exclusive possession of your land. In other words, you control it. But, and this is a big but, possession is really just the beginning of the story. Okay, so you've got possession. Great. But what does that actually let you do? Let's start with the good stuff, the green lights. What exactly are you allowed to use this land for? And here we have it, the single most important rule. This is the big one. It's the guiding star for pretty much everything else. Whatever you do, your use of the land must be connected with agriculture, horticulture, or animal husbandry. You can think of this as the foundation that everything else is built on. And you can really see how that one main rule starts to branch out here. It covers the things you'd expect, right? Farming, raising animals. But look closer. It also explicitly includes things like fisheries, raising poultry, and even social forestry. So it's a much broader vision of land use than you might first think, but it's all centered around that one core idea. So, those are the big categories. But what does this stuff actually look like on the ground, day to day, in the real world? Let's get into some actual, tangible examples. And the key thing here is that we're talking about the fundamental, everyday work of farming. The source is super specific on this. Things like tying up your animals, collecting manure to use as fertilizer, or just storing feed for them. All of that is considered a legitimate use because, well, it's all directly part of the agricultural process. And it doesn't even stop there. It actually extends to building some simple but necessary infrastructure. You're totally allowed to construct things like a threshing floor to process your grain, or even install equipment like an oil press. See the pattern. As long as its purpose is tied back to the farm, you're generally in the clear. All right, I think we've got a pretty good picture of what you can do. But to really understand the rules, you've got to know the flip side of the coin. You have to be crystal clear on the no-go zones. So let's talk about what you cannot do. Now, when it comes to the don'ts, the rules are not fuzzy at all. There is a very, very clear line drawn in the sand. This isn't up for interpretation or debate. It is a hard and fast limit. And boom, here it is. This is really the heart of the whole explainer. Laid out plain and simple, you can do basically anything connected to agriculture. You absolutely, positively cannot use the land for residential or industrial purposes. That means you can't build a house to live in, and you can't build a factory. That right there is the fundamental divide.
So we have the cans and the can'ts. But that just tells us what. To really understand this whole thing, we need to ask why. So let's zoom out a little and look at the bigger picture behind these rules.
And it's a totally fair question, right? Why draw such a strict line? Why is an oil press okay, but a small factory isn't? Why is a barn for your animals fine, but a house for your family is not? It might seem a little strange, but there's a very clear logic at play here. And this is that logic. The entire system, all of these rules, they're designed with one primary goal in mind: preservation. These rules exist to make sure that land designated for agriculture stays dedicated to that purpose. It's all about protecting a vital resource from being converted and used for something else. So that brings us to our final thought. We've just drilled down into one very specific land right, but it points to a much bigger idea, doesn't it? It really makes you think, how do these specific ground-level rules about what you can do with one plot of land ultimately add up to shape a region's food security, its economy, and its entire future?